Nate. Oh, my face is not supposed to be on that screen. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I've got a Terran versus Terran here, and as you might notice, it's on a new map pool. It's also on a new patch. This is a game from the most recent Korean Star League. A little cult cast action coming at you. I want to see games on this new patch. It's so much more fun. The game is so much more interesting when new things happen, when there's a great shakeup. And even though I've already said I think the patch is kind of busted in favor of Terran, I mean, nobody really cares what I say, so they didn't undo it. So now I just have to live in a world where Terran is Imba, and that's fine. Like, I don't really have a choice, you know? I did try. But, you know, I've avoided introducing the players for quite some time, and now I feel like it's awkward. So I'm just going to say the guy building his base outside of his opponent's base, Blue Terran, it's Gumiho. And he's 2-raxing. So I'm really glad I just gave that whole spiel, because in the top right, as the Red Terran player, we have Oliveira. And yeah, it does feel it's a little cringe, bro. You're talking about the new patch, talking about new maps. But what we're about to see is perhaps one of the... Well, anybody who knows me knows that I don't like Reapers. I don't like proxy Reapers. I don't like Reapers in general. You know, they're kind of a silly unit. But that's neither here nor there. I recognize my opinion is maybe not a popular one. I just don't like Reapers. So he's gonna bring him early. And Oliveira has his factory on the way, but he's just going to be in an awkward spot. It's going to be 1 Reaper versus 2 for a brief period of time, and then it's going to be 2 Reapers versus 3, and then things become incredibly tough. And it's just not an easy spot to be in. So the SCVs are going back home for Gumiho. Reaper is moving out on the map for Oliveira. Does he see on the watchtower? Sees the SCV leaving. That could tip him off. Hey, something's outside your base, bro, because you didn't see an SCV come in to scout. And what do we end up with? Well, Gumiho's Reapers just run in, immediately kill the SCV building the factory, and I wanted to see a good, clean game on this map. I know. Casters, that's a caster salt. I'm the most tilted person in the whole game now. I was just kind of excited to see the new Cyclone in action in a real game, and Oliver's building a Hellion to defend anyway, so... I'm not really getting what I want. Oh, good defense, though. Does pick off one of the proxy Reapers. The SCVs, if he could clean this up, it would be great. It's not an easy situation. Gumiho does have the SCV lead now. He has gotten, we could say, value out of his attack. He's no longer behind from this cheese, beyond the fact that Oliveira has a second command center. But, I mean, does he, though? Thanks, Vivid Oblivion, for the 106-month sub. What a literal god. Shout out to him. Let this cast, which will... I mean, this is not the craziest game of StarCraft, even though it's on the new patch. Oh, Cyclone is coming out, by the way, so... For all my jokes aside, we will get to see it implemented in some capacity. Let you be immortalized. Let you be immortalized in my first video of the new patch. How about that? What a god. God, Vivid Oblivion, ladies and gentlemen. Don't like it for him. Don't like it for me. Like it for him. I know my delivery could be a little better. I'll work on my posture before the next one. So the barracks flies in to scout for Gumiho. What does he see? Not really a lot. It's a pretty standard situation. As far as TvT is concerned, it's still 1-1-1-1. The Cyclone opening is going to become very prominent as they are incredibly good at fighting head-to-head. That's really where the Cyclone shines. And if you have it on top of a ramp and your opponent's trying to push the ramp, they're almost guaranteed to give up that first unit they try to go up the ramp with before they can even get vision to try to attack. So, does Gumiho have Reapers? Yes. Are Reapers technically more effective damage-wise against the Cyclones? Also yes. Cyclones no longer have armor, they move slower, and they lost 10 health. So their damage output is much more consistent. The lock-on is basically permanently active as long as an enemy unit is in range. The damage, again, is kind of crazy, but the range is much shorter. So the Cyclone can no longer really harass from afar. It's just very good in tight-knit controlled combat, that mid to CQC range, if you're dealing with melee units. So Again, as you can see, it's not crazy damage. It's just relatively consistent over time. And it does bonus versus mechanical, which obviously affects a lot of Terran units, but also Terran buildings. So weirdly enough, the Cyclone actually does bonus damage to the planetary fortress. That's something that you should keep in mind for your games, especially as you get upgrades. So gotta do what you gotta do. Interference Matrix does get researched by Oliveira. Another part of the patch, if you missed it, is that this upgrade now needs, or this ability now has to be researched. It only costs 50 gas and minerals. I think for fitting it into a regular Terran build, the value it provides out of Ravens is kind of a no-brainer. They didn't really make it expensive enough to be a choice. So I think you'll see lots of Terran players still continue to get that upgrade. And of course, the Cyclone doesn't have the ability to get the long-range lock-on, so he just wants to get nice and close. Reaper doesn't really micro away, though, so he gets the kill pretty quickly. Ask a question coming from the chat. Squeakin wants to know, is a Stalker a mechanical unit? And I will answer yes. It's not a Terran versus Protoss, but the Stalker, the Sentry, the Immortal, and the Disruptor and the Colossus are all mechanical units, so the Cyclone does bonus damage to them. The Observer as well, and all Protoss air and other air units too. Same thing goes for Terran, so I thought that this Cyclone would not be super great versus the Battlecruiser because the lock-on is also affected by armor. But what I discovered too is that apparently the Battlecruiser is not a giant flesh monster, it is a machine. So sadly, it also takes the bonus damage from the mechanical. So Cyclones are very good in TvT as a result of that. They won't do crazy well head-to-head against Bio, but it can be a way to say, if I don't want to play, I played a guy that I tried to do like tank BC against, and he just made 8 factory reactor Cyclone and just bowled me over. So if you don't want to play versus mech people in the normal fashion, I mean, you can just make 100 Cyclones because they're cheap. They can be reactored now. They're better head-to-head fighters, but they're guaranteed to die to 2 siege tank shots, even if you had +3 armor and your opponent's tanks had no upgrades. Now, why exactly is Gumiho just microing 4 tanks ahead on their own with no support? God only knows, but he's feeling strong. Are the Ravens gonna come in from behind? There's just, Gumiho. What's it? There's this game. Oliveira's like, bro, did you really just pump fake me? Did you just pump fake me with 4 tanks? Are you kidding me, bro? Are you kidding me right now? Like, if you knew your opponent was gonna send those tanks there, if you had the tower and saw those coming, like, you just dive on that. That's. They say there's no such thing as a free lunch, but I think 4 siege tanks walking up to your natural, turning 360 degrees and walking away, to me, that seems like, at the very least, you know, maybe a $2,007 menu meal, which, if you guys remember, you know, in the pre-times, it was a pretty good deal. It's back when we had crunch wraps. Anyway, I'm getting a little nostalgic over here. Cyclone at the tower does get killed, but the Cyclone, yeah, it's not going to be super impactful in this game, as that early game, and it kind of was over by the time the Cyclones were out. Big Raven counterattack picking up a lot of SCVs of Oliveira. Meanwhile, there are the Ravens coming through. Interference Matrix on the tanks. On the duration is still the same amount, so having that upgrade for it is very powerful. SCVs pulled off the line to try and grab the Marines, and they get shuffled into the back, but there's still plenty of siege tanks for Gumiho to hold on. Auto turrets getting dropped into the 3rd base of Oliveira. He's got, I was going to say, it didn't look like he had a whole lot of SCVs after that. He's taken a pounding. 26 workers killed this game by Gumiho. Ay, ay, ay. It's not a fun game to be an SCV, and auto turrets coming back again. The Raven definitely still shining in this meta. Not something that I think you're going to see greatly reduced in terms of its usage. Again, the upgrade for Interference Matrix is basically free. 50-50 is really nothing for early game Terran. It's going to drop onto some of the tanks up front. Does get one of them. Trades. I mean, if your goal is to just reduce the tank count, then he did that. So I suppose it was worth it to him. I don't really know. Auto turret in the main again. One Raven has 12 kills, and the other has 17. 30 kills on the 2 Ravens, and most of them SCVs, very, very high value gained out of that. I mean, maybe he would have wanted Interference Matrix for the earlier fight, but it just doesn't seem to have mattered, naturally, since he's in a good spot. He's just going to push up this 3rd. This might be it for Oliveira. GG Gumiho takes our first win on the new patch, and we didn't really get to see anything specifically from the update that had an impact, but I like seeing the new maps, and I hope you enjoyed seeing that as well. So I'll be bringing a lot more casts like this, and I'm kind of motivated now since the game's a lot more fresh. So thank you for watching. Please press like and subscribe. See you next time.